Welcome to the 7th episode of Limited Interest. This is a series where I break down decks that I've either made in Limited Booster Draft or in Sealed. I tell you about the tournament results that I got with them, show you the deck, and then talk about the tournament experience. So in this tournament, I ended up getting 3rd of 16, which is pretty good considering some of the choices that I made in the deck construction, which I'll show you now, and then after that we'll get into the tournament experience itself. First up is one copy of Loyal Pegasus. I don't rate this card too highly. I know it's a 1 mana 2/1 flyer, but the restriction on attacking and blocking alone makes it very difficult to use. It's not as if you're often, unless you have something with haste, of which I think there are very few things, going to be playing it on turn 1 in a way that's going to work on turn 2. And it's meant to be played in the blue-white flyers deck, but even in that scenario, even if it gets buffed by the Empyrean Eagle to be a 3/2, it's hard to see how this is fantastic, although I guess in that case it is okay. But you're not going to be incredibly aggressive with it. In this, it's mostly used for its curve out. One copy of Sanitarium Skeleton. Because I'm playing something that's more of a mid-range deck, I don't want to die immediately to people who are doing anything that's too absurd, like taking their 0/4 Yoked Ox and making it a 6/6 with the uncommon gauntlets of Get There, or any other kind of things a little bit suspiciously good like that. So the Sanitarium Skeleton fulfills the role of being a 1-drop. He's also defensive. He helps with the curve out that I get from Inspiring Captain at the end of all of this. So he fills a role, not as well as I would have liked, but he's there. Same reasoning with the Sedge Scorpion. You really want removal to get used on this guy. 1/1 Death Touch is okay. He's a 1-drop, so he eventually curves out to be a 2/2, potentially a 3/3. He's a body on the field, which will be important for the finishers that come later. He's okay, but he's also in the best color in M20, so it's hard to hate him. One copy of Might of the Masses, as you can guess by the fact that we're playing Brontodons, as you can see from the title picture, and from the fact that we're playing 1-drops that are as disparate and not necessarily as aggressive, like Inspired, like the Pegasus, like the Sanitarium Skeleton. This is a good finisher, Might of the Masses. You have 5 little dudes, bop. Now there's one really large dude gets through for final damage on the game. It's really inexpensive, and it's a very, very good game ender. Steel Overseer only has a couple valid targets in M20 and no other targets of note in this deck, so the question is, would you pay 2 mana for a 1/1 that can get a 1/1 counter on him each turn during your end phase whenever you feel like not attacking? And the answer is yeah. The Fencing Ace is great because he not only counts for a creature, but also he's a great target for Might of the Masses. He's a great target for the Inspiring Captain because then he goes from generating 2 damage to generating 4. He makes life really uncomfortable for things like the Metropolis Sprite in the blue-white flyers, like the Fairy Miscreants of the blue-black control variants, or of the flyers as need be, like the Salamander, the 1-mana red card. It just makes things uncomfortable for them. And also there's the good potential of Fencing Ace, Swing. Oh, it's only 2, I let it go. Might of the Masses, he gets +5/+5. What? Okay, that's the end of the game. Alright, next. Daybreak Chaplain. It's playable. The only great synergy here is that it becomes a 2/4 with lifelink on Inspiring Captain's turn. It counts as a body. There weren't very many other options. Sorry, Chaplain. You're just not what I was hoping for. I mean, if we're going to be playing partially white, we may as well get some decent removal, and Eternal Isolation is decent removal. There's a lot of scary things in green and in blue and some in black. So, yeah, can we send them away, please? I agree. If we can't send them away, then we'll pacify them. It's not actually that great in M20, considering that green is the best color in my opinion, and the Brontodon itself can be a 4-mana naturalize as need be. A little bit of an expensive and complicated 4-mana at that, but Pacifism isn't that great. It's very important if you pick this card not to misplay with it, considering that there's a lot of things that really easily destroy Pacifism in this set. I really rate Legion's End. I think it's quite good. One of the important things in this deck is that you don't want to get out-whited, and the easiest way for you to get out-whited is for someone to be Simicking out pups over and over, or soldiers if they're playing mono-white, or anything like that. So Legion's End just says, kill all of the wolf tokens, have a partial out to Nightpack Ambusher, stop you from buybacking 5 or 6 soldiers and just finish them that way. get wide with real creatures. And also, it's good early game removal. It's not the best, but it's pretty good, and I would actually elevate it to a main board card as opposed to side deck because of the number of tokens that can be made and the number of valuable targets that this deck in particular does not want to face off too early in the game. Hanged Executioner is good. What? 3 mana for 2/1/1s, one of whom can exile itself to exile any big threat? Sure? What? Okay, this card is great. It's not great early because it gets outbeat, and you're not going to outwide people that are outwiding because they have a ferocious pup, whereas you have this guy. But if you are playing against some matchups that those decks lose super hard to, like the blue-black control, Hanged Executioner just says, nah, it's not really a problem, actually. We're going to go ahead and remove your problems. Also, exile target creature. There's a bunch of scary creatures you really want to lose. Like, worst case scenario, you're up against a Rotting Regisaur, and you just play the Hanged Executioner, and you're like, okay, chump the Regisaur, and then you discard, and on your upkeep after discard, exile this guy. You still have to discard his cost. So one of the guys at the shop I play the game with, and I do a lot of drafts with, has a phrase where he says, we're playing the game of get there. And when you have 2 Audacious Thieves, you are playing the game of get there. We don't have the crazy synergy with the Vengeful War Chief where we keep pinging ourselves for 1 and then buffing the Vengeful War Chief and just becoming an unstoppable mad lad. But a 2/2 for 3 that, deal 1 damage, draw a card. That's fantastic. We're trying to honestly go wide, not, flicker in a bunch of pups or make some soldier tokens or spirits. Sorry, Hanged Executioner. So, Audacious Thief is great for that. We also have we need answers for really big, scary threats, and Audacious Thief helps us to get there. Now, I know what you're thinking. Why would you ever play a 3-mana 3/3? But hear me out. In M20, a 3-mana 3/3 is actually pretty good. There aren't many, I don't think there are any, barring some buffs, 2-mana, some 3/1s? No, I don't think so. There's a bunch of scary 2/1s though, and it feels really bad to play a Vigilant Sentry and then trade when there's nothing else on the board with a 2/1. That feels really gross. And also, while the Brontodon is scary, it's an uncommon. The Courser is a common. What? So yeah, 3-mana 3/3 is actually kind of good, and it's in a good color, so give it up for the Courser. So in M20, there's a short list of cards that I would consider first picking. Murder is definitely one of those cards. Wait, what? All the scary things in this set? And I can pay 3 mana to kill it at instant speed? Hell yeah, we're gonna do that. Picked up 2 murders. It's just a great card. Obviously you picked this card. It's awesome. Next, we have the Brontodons themselves. This card is insane. 1 green for a 3/4 is, oh my gosh, it's so good in this set. I was just singing the praises of the Courser, but the Brontodon costs the same, and he can naturalize. And, lest you forget, if someone has the Heartseeker bow, boom, that's fine. They shoot him to a 3/3. That's fine. Not getting any gross trades out of this, no. Brontodon is one of the reasons I think that green is the strongest color in M20, and I think everyone else just has to pretend that they can play other colors around it. 3/4 for 3 is absurd right now. It's actually absurd. The Regisaur exists, and he's a rare. These exist, and they're uncommon. Which one are you going to see more often? That's right, the Brontodon of Get There. I mean, we had the Brontodons, and now the Brontodons need their inspiration. So a 4-mana 3/3 that gives +1/+1 to everything when it comes in isn't great, but it's actually surprisingly serviceable. I already said that there are a bunch of scenarios where you don't want 3/2s because then they trade badly into a shock, or 2/1s, and it just feels kind of gross, like you're a turn behind whenever that happens. And this allows a massive trade up. This also allows a lot of the smaller cards to bulk up and become something that can contest the flyers, that can contest some of the scary things like the Gorillaback Shaman, and really start making headway. It's not overcome, but it's a body, and it doesn't cost as much as Overcome. It's also available at common, and I don't rate white very highly in this set, but when you can play back-to-back Inspiring Captains, it starts to look kind of grim on your opponent's side of the field, like, oh, oh no, oh, this is not great, oh, okay. So the saddle is okay in this deck. It is an uncommon, so you're happy to pick it up, but Equip 3 is a little bit expensive, and we don't really have the payoff cards that make that kind of inverted menace work, where it can't be blocked by more than one creature. We don't have a Vorst Claw or something that makes that obscenely scary, or the Rotting Regisaur, but generating a 3/3 for 4 mana that has that quality is not bad. And if the Courser is playable as a 3 mana 3/3, then a 4 mana 3/3 that has a bit of an upside to it as well. And oh, by the way, you can equip this to other things and make them bigger as well and start getting efficient trades. That's not too bad. This is another payoff for us playing Curveout. This is another reason why we played a little underwhelming in the 2-drop department, because the squad captain feels great when you play it on turn 5 and it gets +4/+4 and it's just sitting there as a 6/6, potentially bigger depending on what other cards have been played, the state of the board, etc. I mean, the dream would be to have Hanged Spirit in there as well, so this comes in as a 7/7. I don't care if it's a terrible creature otherwise. It suddenly gets good when it's a 7/7 with Vigilance. Speaking of which, it has Vigilance. Yeah, Vorst Claw with Vigilance is pretty scary. Now, that's a lot of conditionals to put on this card, but it got there quite a few games. Wolfkin Bond is alright. 5 mana to +2/+2 is but when you look at the fact that you make a 2/2 green wolf token, what you're really saying is, okay, 3 mana to make a 2/2, and then 2 mana to equip something so it gets +2/+2. That's alright. I mean, that's doable, that's serviceable. It makes the board a little wider for the squad captain and the other payoff that I'm going to show you. It's not awful, it's okay. But one of the big payoffs that you can actually do with the Wolfkin Bond is you equip it to the Fencing Ace, and now it's a 3/3 with Double Strike. Yeah, that's kind of gross. That's kind of gross. You can also put it on the Brontodon and just have this unkillable wall of just no. There's a bunch of cool things you can do with this, but by itself, it's serviceable. This is another payoff for having creatures starting from turn 1 and even having some otherwise uninspiring picks like the Chaplain in 2 mana cost, because when this guy comes out and he is on curve, it's kind of gross to do 5 damage automatically to something you're afraid of and just shoot it out of the sky and move forward from there. Just blasting your opponent in an even game is okay. Taking over a game in which you are on the defense is okay. Being able to do this as the finisher when you're actually a bit behind someone who's going a bit wider and taller than you is okay. This is a bit of an underrated uncommon, I think, at least in my local gaming store. I rate it pretty well. Evolving Wilds, because we're in 3 colors, and you always want to have an Evolving Wilds if you're in 3 colors. And rather than show them all up front, here we go. 5 plains, 5 swamps, 5 forests. Keep in mind that there's also an Evolving Wilds, and that's 16. Alright, I already told you I got 3rd of 16th, but how did that actually play out? So there were 2 separate pods, 2 full pods of 8, which was great. I love full pods of 8. There's something about 6 that I'm just like, and 7 and 9 throw it off in a weird way. Like, okay, I like eating Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Reese's Peanut Butter Cups taste different if they're in a 4-pack as opposed to a 2-pack. I don't know why, but they do. Much the same way the flavor of draft just feels off, just flat off for 6. I don't understand how to work my brain into that format. And then 7 and 9 just, it happened. But we got 2 full pots of 8. 8, so that's excellent. All right, great. So we get into that, and I'm like, okay, let's go. Let's just do the cards as they come to us. And I'm sitting to my right is a super scary regular. Oh my, I think we've played in 4 finals, the two of us. This was the 4th and most recent one, but up to that point we've been in 3 finals, and I had won and lost 2. I'm like, this is the god, am I right? What? Okay, we're fine, we're good. And so we end up doing the draft, and I'm getting some mixed signals. So if you get past an inspiring Brontodon, just the Brontodon, you're like, my opponent is good. I know he's been doing this a while. He must not be in green. He must not be in green. There's no way, because the Brontodon is so good, and you know that he knows that the Brontodon is good, and the only way that he wouldn't take this green is if he were in elementals. That's fine. We'll take the Brontodon. We'll do one more round, okay? It circles around. It circles around. There's a hanged man or hanged executioner. What? That is like a that says, I'm not in white. I'm not in blue-white flyers. I'm not going wide, so take your pick. And I'm like, okay, all right. So I don't rate white, but okay, let's see how this goes. And then I get past another Brontodon. I'm like, oh my gosh. Green, white, go as wide as possible is so free right now. Let's go. It wasn't. It wasn't at all. The reason he passed the Brontodon is that he got a Master Splicer, and he passed the Hanged Executioner by accident because he didn't see the card or realize what it was, and he picked like he picked like a Plummet. It's not terrible, but it's not Hanged Executioner. I'm like, okay. What? And then I look at his deck as soon as we're done. I'm like, okay, so obviously you're not in elementals and you weren't in green. You must have been in like blue-black control, right? Or like something like that. Maybe black-white, the life gain. But I know you don't like white that much. He just looks at me like, no, I was playing green-white. I'm like, oh no. And I look to my right, and what does he have? He has the Night Pack Ambusher. Oh no. And he's got like the Vorse Claw and all the elemental stuff as well. I'm like, no. And he's got the Leafkin Druids, and I'm like, no, please stop, please, no. So I'm like, okay, I want that guy to go against someone else in the tournament and lose. Please lose. All right, I'm like, okay. All right, let's go. I gotta hope that his deck is really scary. His deck is really scary. You ever get that sinking feeling in your stomach when you've just finished a draft and you just look at someone's pool and you just think, I don't know how that person is going to lose. I don't even know if it's possible. That is the feeling I got looking at this guy's draft. It was amazing. He had 3 murders. What? I had 2. There's only 18 packs at the table. How did that happen? So I'm like, please, I hope he loses and I don't get drafted against him first round. Please. Okay. First round opponent. I curve out beautifully the first game. It's like Loyal Pegasus. Daybreak Chaplain, and this person was suspicious because I had already said, let's just put it out there. Let's just say it. All right, this will be a separate video. Short version: white is terrible comparatively in M20. I say comparatively because some people go a bit hyperbolic and they say it's complete shit and no one should ever play it. And if you play it, you're bad. You might as well play extra lands for all the good they're gonna do. Okay, no. Comparatively, though, yes, it is dog shit. It is awful and atrocious. It should not be sold in the same pack because it contaminates the other packs with the fact that it is the color that uses plains mana, saying it that way so no one misinterprets what's going on here, okay? It's bad comparatively. So... but he knows this. He's a little suspicious, but I'm happy because he looks like he's doing like the red blue. Is it not quite flyers? It's weird. He's got like half elementals, but then also half flyers, and he doesn't have the Cloud Conceer. The one of the few elementals that also flies. Well, actually, there's a couple of them. There's the air elemental, and then there's also the Chandra's like spittle. Chandra's spittle. That's what it looks like anyways in the picture. That's right. That's what this card is called. It's called Chandra's Spittle. So okay, that's fine. And then I curve out to inspiring Brontodon because it feels good. And then the next one, it's the Brontodon. Then it's the inspired dude. And he's just like, wait, what? I'm like, swing for 8, gain 2 life. By the way, that's a 4 or 5. And he's like, what? And then I do the inspiration Brontodon again. I'm like, oh yeah, by the way, next turn, inspire everything again, swing the team. And he's just like, wait, what? And I just win the first game, and it's just gone. And I don't remember games 2 or games 3, but I remember, no, there wasn't a game 3. I distinctly remember I went 2-0 in that first round. Okay, all right. Shop owner asks us, so are we gonna do intra pod only, and then I'll reward first and second, or first, second, and third for each pod, or do you want to do the whole event? And everyone there is like, do it for everybody, cross the teams, because I'm thinking, please, the more people, hopefully the guy that I was sitting to the left of gets passed with someone on the other pod, because I have no idea what anyone at my pod is going to do to solve this problem. So I'll book it to them, and I hope that luck takes control of it, because I did terribly in the drafting portion, at least compared to this guy. I just got absolutely destroyed in the draft section. Okay, all right. Round 2. No offense to my opponent. It's just been a little while since I drafted this deck. I don't remember it. I just 2-0. I think and then I go I go against this guy. I think it was the 3rd round. I lost game 1 in a way that everyone who's played M20 a lot has lost a game. If you're playing M20, you've definitely had this draft experience. Your opponent is on the play. They drop their second forest. They have 4 lands. They say go, and you just know the game is over because they have Night Pack Ambusher. And as soon as you end your peasant-like turn, where you're like, I'm gonna play my 4th mana and do some removal or some things, and I'll swing a little bit, maybe. I don't know. I might swing. I got a combat trick. It doesn't matter, because end of your turn, they just take the damage to their face like they just got sucked in the jaw by someone who is not a professional boxer, and they have a face that's made of iron. And they don't care. Tap 4, flash in the wolf, and you're like, oh no. And then they just end their turn, and you're looking at your board, and you're like, all right, well, okay, try and swing through, try and play it. Do you have removal? No, you don't have removal, because it's turn 4 or 5, and you've only drawn 5-ish cards on your top of your 7, and 12 of 40 is not a high enough hit rate. You're sitting at less than 33%. And I didn't get there. Now, I did have 2 murders, and an Eternal Isolation, and a Pacifism. But you don't really want to pacify the Night Pack Ambusher. That feels so bad. It's not even removal. And he's in the colors of Brontodon. I mean, Naturalize. So, well, that game just went... You see that? The Enola Gay just dropped my deck into the ocean and just said, no, this is a test run, actually. This one's a dud. It's gone. It doesn't work. Say goodbye. And I just got absolutely dumpstered on Brave Little Toaster trash compactor levels of destruction. It was gone and not even close. And so I go to game 2 and I win the only way I could have, which is that he gets screwed for he mulliganed down to 5. And then he mulliganed down to 4. I'm like, yes! Feels good. And as long as the impossible doesn't happen, I win, because my hand looks actually great. I've got 3 lands and 4 dudes that I curve out. It's great. And that game, this was a great hand. I was like, it eventually got to the point where he had conceded me. He had 1 card in hand, and I squad captain, and it was a 7/7. On turn 5. That's pretty much it. Game. Okay, we go to game 3. How did I do? I got demolished. I got outvalued so hard. He was like, yeah, man, Silverback Shaman's a great card. I'm like, I know. If I had seen it, I'd have picked it up. Couldn't pick it up. Okay, alright, that's fine. He has Shamans and Nightpack Ambushers and Plummets for his sideboard, and he has a pretty crazy pool. And because he made a mistake in not picking up the Hanged Executioner, and I made a mistake, that just sheer the odds of getting past 2 Brontodons from someone who's not doing elemental green, but is also in green, is just like, okay, the green pool is just absolutely stacked on this side of the table, and no one else wants it, and I guess that happens sometimes. It just happens. That's fine, though. So, okay, go to my next opponent. 2-0. Got there. He was actually doing like the blue-black control, similar to what I was doing with the fairies, where it was like, hi, I have fairy miscreant. Do you know how many of the opposite? Do you know the optimal number of fairy miscreants to have? Is it 1? No. Is it 2? No, we're getting there. Is it 3? No. Well, that's pretty good. How about 4? But would 5 be better than 4? Yes, it would be. So I'm like, oh no. But somehow I managed to come through because the Brontodon got there. And this was actually the game where the Brontodon swung. And it's a 3/4, so it's hard for flyers to take care of it. I'm also playing the colors that have plummet in the side. I gave away the side, but I had plummets. That feels really bad for people who are doing the flyers. You know what else feels bad for people who are doing flyers? Fencing Ace. Swing for 1, or you don't even have to say what it is, but I do. That's a habit I have to break. Swing with the Fencing Ace. Oh, it goes through. No blockers. I'm like, since you declared no blockers before damage step, Might of the Masses for 6. I hit you for 14. Get destroyed. And he's like, well, that's the game, I guess. And I felt the same way when I punched that guy and I saw the look on his face when he died to a 14 damage double striking Fencing Ace. The look on his face looked like the look on my face when I saw the scary guy to my right had drafted into the colors that I was drafting into, and the only reason he didn't pick the cards that I was able to pick up is because he had so much excellence that there was nothing to do but to pick the better things. Holy shit. Okay, alright. Tournament's over. I'm like, you know what? I probably got second. I went 2-0. 2-0, 1-2, and then 2-0 again. And it's not like I went 2-0, 2-0, 2-0, and then lost 1-2 in the final, because then maybe I dropped a third or I dropped a fourth. No, better to face the super scary guy early, get those losses out of the way, and then grind up, have full victory after that, because of how strength of opponent works. It tends to show that you're a little bit better. No, I got third. I was like, oh, how did this happen? And they're like, well, strength of opponent, stuff happens. I'm like, okay, fair enough. A couple things came out of this tournament. I realized again, I'll talk about this later. White, nah. Green, yes.